And we're back. We are now going to begin discussing the Sony press conference. Just as a note, we're not going to talk about the hardware stuff, the PlayStation TV, all that business.
We're not going to talk about the Powers TV series.
No, although
or the Ratchet and Clank movie.
I will take a second to say congratulations, Brian Michael Bendis, for getting that through. Because Brian Michael Bendis is one of my favorite comic book people around right now.
Cool.
He created the new Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales, who is super cool. He's basically responsible for the best stuff in Ultimate Spider-Man, but none of that is video games. So we're going to talk about video games. The first major thing in the Sony press conference was The Order.
This was a game that, actually, I think this was the game that led me to make my tier ranking of game reactions that I discussed at the beginning of the Microsoft conference. Because what this game looks to me like is Victorian Resident Evil 4.
Yes.
And Victorian Resident Evil 4 is an experience that I would be willing to have for like $10.
Yeah. Okay. So,
not new. Not ever new.
So my note here for The Order was, at least it's a concept. It's at least something different.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me a lot of how I felt about what was that? Dishonored? The recent
the steampunk. I need to play that game.
You would like it a lot.
Yeah.
You would like it a lot.
I might own that. That's definitely a game I might pick up on a Steam sale right now.
But yeah, no, what to say? Barely any gameplay.
It was again very typical stuff. Big scary monster, you shoot him.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah, cool.
Over the shoulder.
At least it's something new.
Yeah.
Next was Entwined, which looks like, and I don't mean to offend anybody, indie garbage. So I didn't care.
Oh, that is indie garbage.
Yes.
This game is about two souls in love who can never meet each other.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like audio surf. Go away.
Yeah, really. Next was in an Infamous announcement.
Yeah, you know what? Can we applaud those people for having a female protagonist who looks like a normal human being?
Yes, we can.
Good job.
Yeah, good way to go.
I'm never gonna play your game because it was a PS3 exclusive.
PS4 exclusive, yeah.
But I've heard good things about it. People seem to like it.
I liked Infamous 2 a lot. It was almost a really great superhero game. Probably the best superhero game that is not Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Hold on, let me finish here, because the real answer is Arkham Asylum. But the main reason I don't want to say that is because Batman. I'm sorry, Batman fans. It's not very super.
It's true.
And so and not to say that doesn't make him a good superhero. It does in the comic books and in stories and stuff like that. And we're gonna get to Batman. Don't worry. He is showing. He's gonna show up. But I really love Hulk Ultimate Destruction. It comes from the time where, do you remember when Spider-Man 2 the game came out and people marveled at the idea of a movie tie-in game that wasn't terrible? And
I briefly remembered it being. I'm gonna be honest. The last movie tie-in game I played, Return of the King.
Oh yeah, well that game's awesome too.
The game was okay.
Yeah, it's a great hack and slash.
Yeah.
Anyway, Infamous has that idea. I don't understand why every superhero game anyway is not a open world game where you can like Grand Theft Auto style choose to pursue plot related things and that sort of thing, or you could go nuts and do like stop muggings or like be an asshole and as the Hulk you could run around and just smash cars and do stuff like that. And Infamous kind of goes down that route. Gameplay wise, really really excellent and fun. It kind of sucks that you're limited to lightning powers in the first two. In the second one introduces ice and fire powers also. But I would like it if these games are begging to make your own character and to make your own. If I got a PS4, I would probably pick this up. This is my kind of game.
All right.
But they didn't show much, so there's not much to talk
you're
about.
right. It was,
Little Big Planet 3. Do we want to shove this in the same cart as Project Spark and
I mean,
it's nice that you offer these tools, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like at least as compared to Project Spark, Little Big Planet 3, and I assume the Little Big Planet series, looks like there is a base platformer game. Little Big Planet really feels to me like once Crash Bandicoot, bless his soul, stopped being a relevant part of gaming.
Sure.
Sony needed someone to be a mascot.
The face.
Little Big Planet for PS3 was kind of the face of PS3.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And again, we don't really like 2D platformers so much.
No. Not a big
apparently,
fan.
people like the cutesy customization elements. It seems like very much a game that is for people who are not like me.
Right.
And it's just a game I'm going to respect unless I have some other reason to dislike it.
Right, totally. Yep, I would agree with that. Speaking of games I don't respect, Dead Island 2.
Oh, this is clearly a game, from what I hear, it was famous for that original reverse time trailer that everyone raved about, and then of course turned out the game was garbage.
Yeah.
Why would you trust these people at this point? Like, are you gonna make a cutesy trailer now?
Yeah.
That and then your game will be like this? I mean, I can look at this and I can understand why people might be like, oh man, I'm so tired of zombies.
Yes.
Zombies are a part of this, but the reason it's bad is because these people are clearly bad and should not be trusted.
Yeah. No, I would agree. It's not the zombies' fault. I mean, I said earlier in one of our other press conference things that I'm not a big fan of zombie stuff, but that's not the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is that everybody has been doing it, including fraud hacks.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I think, what's happening here.
Yeah.
You have fraud hacks.
Fraud hack trailer.
Right. Okay. So moving on to a funny trailer, Magicka. Magicka 2.
Did you play Magicka 1?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Magicka 1, it deserves a place in the sun next to Mario Kart and Mario Party and Mario Tennis for being one of the most rage-inducing but hilariously fun games I've ever played. It's because Magicka functions... Okay, for people who are unaware, Magicka is a game where you play as a wizard and you cast spells by entering in codes, basically. Like QWEXE, I remember that one off the top of my head because that one was a lightning bolt that did insane damage, but there's friendly fire in that game.
Okay.
So if you did QWEXE and there was no enemies around, you would just zap one of your wizard friends and they would lose all their equipment and all of their, and it has a great tongue-in-cheek sort of humor and it has a clever gameplay mechanics. And I'm interested to see how they would transfer that to a console. I don't see how that would work. I mean, you could do just button combinations, I guess, but I'm not sure if that would be as intuitive as a keyboard.
Yeah.
But the trailer was funny. I liked the style, but again, no gameplay, so not much to talk about.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of a big deal is the next thing. I don't know if you remember what happens chronologically next. But Grim Fandango. Yo.
That's, I don't know. Obviously, that touches on a nerve of mine in regards to cultural preservation.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So, I mean, I guess this is a sort of case where you clearly have a situation where a work that a lot of people consider very vital and very important.
So good.
And I'm really glad. I guess in this case, it's a case. How old is Grim Fandango? It's the days of adventure games.
Yes, it is in a lot of ways you can consider it the last adventure game. Like it's like the hilariously like the death of adventure games began. But it's brilliant. It's clever. It's hilarious. The music is unbelievable. A lot of people, it's got that Tim Schafer humor, and it does. But it's he wasn't the only one to work on the game. And it's great that it's going to be available, but you do have a pretty I do recognize your perspective on this.
It just worries me that the biggest, most popular things are going to get brought back to the PlayStation Store, the Wii Virtual Console, and in this case they're even crossing lines. They're fetching something from Disney's vault.
Yeah.
Disney is a company that is devoted to collecting the rights to as much important culture as possible. Mm-hmm. They own Marvel. Mm-hmm. They own Star Wars. Mm-hmm. You know, and putting it in a vault and charging people rent for it.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's terrifying to me. I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad it's getting remastered. I think, to me, what makes me feel more comfortable about this is the fact that they're going to put effort into remastering it.
Yes.
If they just released a port, I would be super upset.
Furious, yeah.
But the fact that they're doing this, but I don't know. It's just a thing where these old works, you know, for every one of these games that does get brought back, maybe updated, maybe released, or even just straight ported. Mm-hmm. You know, what about all the other games that maybe, you know, aren't something that the publisher doesn't already have rights to?
Right.
Is a publishing house that doesn't exist anymore. It's an orphaned work. Mm-hmm. You know, what are the rights to that? And it just seems to me that, are we really going to only preserve the tippy top of adventure games?
Right.
Are we really going to preserve these certain things, or even prevent an opportunity for the people who are really passionate about them to improve on them, to have mod tools for them, things like that. We're going to get more into this in a Nintendo conference or something.
Oh yeah. But, I mean, you can't. For me, all right. Well, we'll get into it. Yeah,
but it's exciting. I think the remastering work is great. I'm glad that people are able to have access to an important cultural work.
Yes. Next thing is No Man's Sky.
Which seems to be, I think, the most talked about game out of E3.
Sure, especially considering how little we saw.
They claimed, I read an article saying that they claimed that what was seen was gameplay. I'm
sure.
It seemed very,
yeah,
so very fluid. I don't know how it even makes sense of that gameplay.
Yeah. So, correct me if is this an indie game?
Yes.
Okay.
It was presented like kind of like a AAA title, but
yeah,
it's made by an indie studio.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is Mass Effect, but instead of the emphasis on character and storytelling, the emphasis is on the actual exploration,
on the procedurally generated, infinity of planets and animals and whatnot. Okay,
so this is kind of interesting because this is going to get into something that we were going to talk about more in the Nintendo one, which is, I do not care for exploration's sake. I do not find that fulfilling. There needs to be a point, in a gameplay related point, or I really don't care. And that's really funny coming from me, considering, and this, I don't know if this has come out on #LaserTaser yet, but I am a massive Zelda fan. Like, it cannot be emphasized enough that it is my favorite video game series, and
okay, can you give me some examples
of exploration for exploration's sake? The first Legend of Zelda, many people cite as a game where the intent was to just drop you into a world, and we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Because I don't necessarily agree with that. Okay. But what is a good example?
Do you feel that any of the Elder Scrolls games do that? Because you can play those games exploratory.
Well, I mean, the only Elder Scroll game I played was Skyrim. Because they all look boring. Yeah, I never played Morrowind.
Fallout.
I played Fallout 3. Okay. But Fallout 3 was like, again, that wasn't pointless. There was a gameplay element to.
But I mean, a lot of those dungeons were sort of one-off places by themselves.
But there was you go to those dungeons and you'll find things or things to fight. And
I guess I'm not understanding then what the.
Okay, so all right, there are people who like. Okay, so a perfect example of what I'm talking about is in WildStar. For example, a game that just recently came out.
Yes.
You can choose to be... You have your character class, and then you have your path, right? And your path is... It gives you options of things you can do that aren't necessarily related to your character, insofar as, like, it doesn't give you experience, it doesn't give you... But it's activities to engage in outside of, soldiers just do combat things. Scientists can scan items in order to get lore and buffs. And then there are explorers... who look for platforming bits and things like that. That holds no interest for me. Like earlier I was talking about how I like 3D platformers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, actually, no. I have a perfect example. Okay, Resident Evil 4.
Yes.
Out of the way of Resident Evil 4, there are bits of treasure that you can find.
Yes.
Right? Like, you have to explore to find some of these things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But the reward for doing the exploration is getting these treasures that you can sell to the what do you buy-in guy to help upgrade. So there's a point to that.
Yes.
It is an incentive and a reward.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes.
I have no interest in like open world, you found this thing, so we're going to add a percentage point to your gameplay completion percentage. You know?
Okay.
Like, that does nothing for me.
So the 100 hidden packages kind of thing.
Sure. Or, I mean, like, the main thing, and I'm trying not to get into it right now, but mostly this applies to this thought process about Legend of Zelda, which I'll get into
later.
we'll
get into that later.
But yeah, No Man's Sky...
I'm really excited.
If there's cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously, again, like all of these things we talk about, it's a situation where we need to see how it pans out. Because what's going to make or break this is, will the ship-to-ship fighting actually be fun?
Fun, sure.
Will the ground combat actually be fun?
Right.
Will the variety of procedurally generated, natural formations, animals, plants, actually be interesting?
Right. Will that be engaging?
Because if it is,
then we've got something crazy on our hands, like something like really special. Speaking of really special, moving on, we've got Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain.
The Phantom Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes. Okay. So I have some words about this. Pretty big Metal Gear fan. I think that the Metal Gear Solid series is one of the most intelligent video game series. I'm dead serious too. They are deeply clever, deeply witty. They have an interesting perspective on war and global events and things like that. One of the few game series that is simultaneously deeply sexist and deeply empowering. It has a slew of excellent female characters. And some that they even improved over time, specifically Meryl, who went from Metal Gear Solid 1 to 4, I would say overall improved as a character. Metal Gear Solid 1, she is the wrong love interest, with the correct love interest being Otacon.
The bromance right off into the Alaskan
yeah,
sunset.
Exactly. It's the best ending. And then you have the boss. I mean, some people might argue Naomi, I guess. Olga is awesome. Sunny, I like Sunny's whole thing in Metal Gear Solid 4. Having said all that, I was not happy with Ground Zero's tone.
You played. We're talking about the Ground Zero's game.
Yes.
Okay, so not the Phantom Pain trailer.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so people who aren't familiar with Metal Gear may not understand that Metal Gear has kind of always been tongue-in-cheek. I like to joke that most of the Metal Gear games are slightly aware that they're games. I hate to be this guy, but I really do feel like that's the reason why Snake looks like the way he does in Metal Gear Solid 4. I think there's a visual sort of, this is the last Snake game. That's why he looks super old, because he's been around for a long time, even though in universe he hasn't.
Yeah.
In our universe he has.
Right.
So it's a very clever, there's lots of things going on. But it has also been very silly. You've got, what's a good, obviously
Carbo Box.
Yeah, the bromance ending of Metal Gear Solid 1. Metal Gear Solid 2, you have Raiden running around naked. Metal Gear Solid 2, you have Raiden.
Yeah,
you could almost just end it there. But by the way, I love Raiden. I'm not in the hate Raiden camp. Metal Gear Solid 3, you've got the Ape Escape stuff. You've got Big Boss making jokes about movies and eating animals.
You have Metal Gear Solid 3, also Ocelot.
Oh my God, Ocelot! Perhaps the greatest character in fictional history. Maybe Ocelot is if Satan was competent.
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah, but in any case, I did not like the Ground Zero's tone. It's really, really serious.
Okay.
It takes some characters that it introduced in Peace Walker and does terrible, horrible things to them. And at first I was like, ooh, because I thought this was just like, oh, we need to make things serious so people will care about them again.
Yeah.
Because Hideo Kojima just wants to make Zone of the Enders 5 or 3, and no one will let him.
Zone of the Enders 3.
Yeah, it's the impossible dream. It's like it's gonna come out with Half-Life 3 in a bundle.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Or Zone of the Enders 3 will be released with the Half-Life 3 demo. But anyway, having said that, I thought the trailer was amazing, and if I get a PS4, it will be to play Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real chance that on 2 occasions, I borrowed someone's PS3 to play 2 games. One of them was MGS4, and the other was Uncharted 2.
Sure, yeah.
And I still just have a lot of faith in Kojima as a game director, as in making games that are fun to play,
yes,
and interesting and
yes,
engaging, and the fact that it's kept so console specific is a problem. But of course, the other issue here too is that since my affiliation with the Halo brand has been damaged, that makes it possible that I might actually go for a PS4 or whatever, depending on what the case is. But I mean, it looked good. I mean, it was your typical Kojima cinematic trailer. And,
yeah.
And again, I think both of us are saying, we trust Kojima so much that as long as we don't feel he's being hampered by Checkboard Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clipboard
Man. Yeah.
That we think he's going to deliver a solid product.
Yeah. I mean, the gameplay in Ground Zeroes was there. It was, he has just improved the stealth stuff in every game. Like, it's gotten better in every single one. So, there's that. Moving on, the last game we have to talk about for the Sony conference, since we skipped all the hardware stuff. Yeah, not important.
Not important.
Is Batman. Batman.
Okay, so
yeah, you go ahead and start. You have the more recent.
Here.
Yeah, you have the more recent.
As I mentioned before, in other conferences, I've been working on my Steam backlog alphabetically. So that means at this point that I have played recently Arkham Asylum and Arkham City.
Arkham City, sure.
Arkham Asylum was a super fun game. There's a few minor complaints.
Sure. The endings.
The intro to the Scarecrow sequence. Scarecrow sequences themselves were fun.
Sure. But
the little annoying stuff beforehand, and then the final boss fight was a little annoying and was a little out of character.
Yes.
But it didn't ruin the game for me.
No.
And so then I immediately said, "Oh wow, this is great!" And they made 2 more games, so the whole series has to be great, right? And then I played Arkham City. Which has a beautiful concept, open world Batman going from place to place, but the plot never really makes any sense.
No.
And it just the moment at the end of the game when you just forget about Talia. And you come out with Joker's body.
Yeah.
And Talia's just buried under this place, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I was like I understand Batman wouldn't leap behind Joker's body either. But
you'd think he would prioritize...
Not even... I think he would make an...
effort to get both?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I think the Batman thing to do would be.
Okay, so...
but regardless, and even beyond that, the gameplay was almost essentially unchanged. The only differences were that the extra special baddies, you had certain button combos instead of simpler button combos from Asylum.
Right.
It was just a really unimpressive game. If Arkham City, Arkham Origins or
Origins was the third one to come out.
Yeah,
if not the game we're currently talking about.
For example, if Origins were to come up on a Steam sale, I would likely not be interested at this point based on my experience of City. And by extension, what I saw during the Arkham Knight trailer, which is the game that was demoed.
Yep.
What I saw was a completely blasé, mediocre tank sequence that I've seen in every other game that has a tank sequence ever. I would take the Mako every time over what I saw in that trailer.
Okay. So I'm glad you said that. First and foremost, before I get into my spiel, I'm going to agree that I would take the Mako over the Bat Tank.
Thank you. The Mako is great.
Well,
I love the Mako.
Well, the Mako at least makes sense. Okay. But let me qualify. I have also played Arkham Asylum and Arkham City and Arkham Origins. I've played all three.
Okay.
Arkham Asylum, clearly the best one. Arkham City, more like Arkham Shitty. It's okay. Here's the thing. It's really not so bad because it just is Arkham Asylum again in an open world. But it is like a checklist. It's like, okay, I saw Two-Face. Now I'm gonna go see Mr. Freeze. Now I'm gonna go see the Penguin who got Mr. Freeze's gun for some reason. Now I'm gonna go see Ra's al Ghul and we'll do a big silly video game fight. Now I'll go see, it doesn't follow. It's just a like if Batman had seen all these people in the same night, that's like Justice League stuff. You might be able to tell from a little bit earlier. I do have a bit of a background in comic books. I have specific thoughts about Batman, even though I'm not a big DC person. I'm more of a Marvel guy. But of the DC properties that I care about, Batman is on there. Do you know what Batman? Okay, so this tank. The first thing I thought of with this tank was like, this is totally a Nolan movie thing.
Oh yeah.
This is
is
a stretch out to the people who really like the Tumblr, which is I believe what
is that the name of the Nolan
Batmobile, because we can't call it the Batmobile, Pete.
Why can't we call it the Batmobile?
Because that would be. It's the same reason why Bane can't have a luchador mask. It's the same reason why.
Oh, is it because it has to be serious?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it has to be serious.
Sorry, my brain immediately falls to intellectual property problems every time.
No,
Someone says you can't do something.
This is me.
Sorry.
This is me complaining about
Nolan.
Yeah, the Nolan. Okay. I like Batman Begins. I like Dark Knight. Never saw Dark Knight Rises. Never gave a fuck. The Nolan films are good. I'm not saying they're bad. I don't think they're good Batman movies. I think they're really, really, really solid superhero deconstruction films. What they attempt to do, they probably do successfully, but I would like it if someone other than Christian Bale played Batman, because he's terrible. He's really bad. Anyway, talking about the game.
Bunch of fucking professionals dancing around the set, la-di-da-di-ya, just waltzing through here.
Anyway, there is precedence in the books for Batman doing something like this, getting into a vehicle to do, to combat a problem.
Yeah.
The main thing I can think of is there is a DC property called Swamp Thing, and there was a famous encounter between the Swamp Thing and Batman, which was written by Alan Moore.
Okay.
Where Batman shows up in an enormous vehicle covered in saws and flamethrowers because the Swamp Thing has taken over Gotham with crazy plants and shit like that.
Okay.
And it's pretty badass. And part of what makes it cool is that it's not Batman's move, But Swamp Thing, came to his town and is like, hey man, I'm the goddamn Batman. This is not gonna fly.
Yeah.
Having said all that, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's just awful.
This like what is that game? Twisted Metal? Like this Twisted Metal shit?
Yo, Twisted Metal was good, okay? Twisted Metal 2. You would like Twisted Metal 2. Twisted Metal 2 had a comic book style. It was great. It was fantastic.
Twisted Metal I've played and I found perfectly fun. I also played the Nintendo 64 knockoff Vigilante 8.
Yeah. The school bus.
Yeah, the school bus. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's we didn't see gameplay other than that. I have a feeling that the reason we didn't is because it's just
the same.
Yeah, it's the same. And I'm not going to talk about the Iron Man Batman suit because a plated Batman suit is not as cool as a regular old rubber suit or cloth suit or whatever. But that's not important. None of that matters. What matters is Arkham Asylum was fine. And you know why? Part of why it was fine, and I'm speaking to you, general gaming audience, because it was linear. and they were able to go through and say the player is going to come through here, so we're going to have these things happen. But when you have to make an open world game, it doesn't feel cohesive, which is what happened with Arkham City. It feels like a jumble of shit that you end up doing in a row.
Well, I mean, you can do it right. I mean, the Grand Theft Auto games are great games.
No, you can do it right. You can do it right. Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto,
Just Cause.
But Just Cause 2. But I'm just saying, linear.
I'm sorry. Have you ever actually played that game?
No.
Okay. When we talked about Far Cry being squicky, Just Cause 2 is like that, but 100 times worse.
Oh.
It's the most fun gameplay ever.
Right.
The worst writing ever.
My God. But anyway, I don't know how you look at Batman and the first thing you think of is tank. Like, why you would show that.
I don't.
Like,
it seems like, let's add a vehicle sequence.
Yeah, I don't. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, in this day and age, is that a selling point?
Apparently, I don't know.
Like
when I was like a high school kid, I was like, yeah, more Halo vehicle sequences or something. But first off, the vehicles are fun in that game.
Yeah.
And secondly, like that's like saying you want to eat candy all the time.
Right.
Like, it's not what you should be doing.
Right. You know how they could have done this better is if Batman was in the Bat Tank to fight something like large, like I don't know, Solomon Grundy, which I know we did already in Arkham City, but
that was a silly fight.
Well, it's just like there are times where I could see Batman being like, okay, I can't punch this thing till it goes down or something. There are DC, I just like at this point when we've got Avengers stuff and all those things, and I realize intellectual properties come into play here.
Oh yeah.
And all that stuff, but like, why isn't the game like, oh, you're fighting like crazy dark side stuff, or like you're fighting like giant poison ivy plants that have taken over the guy? Like that's what you should do, not normal ass guys.
Yeah.
Batman should not be shooting tank rounds at normal ass guys. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. Arkham Origins was really not very good.
I know. Clearly the Arkham series must be insane.
But yeah, that's it for Sony.
Okay.
So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Nintendo.
Woo!